On the last day of August 1869, a 42-year-old Irish scientist of some renown, named Mary Ward, was traveling down the road in a steam carriage invented by one of her cousins, when disaster struck. She fell from the vehicle as it hit a curb and was crushed beneath its heavy wheels, dying instantly. And thus the age of the motor vehicle crash was officially born. Today, roughly 140 years later, motor vehicle crashes are now the leading cause of death among those aged 5 to 34 in the United States. In 2007 alone, 2.3 million vehicle occupants were treated at emergency departments around the country for injuries sustained in motor vehicle crashes. That comes out to one injured person every 14 seconds. According to the Centers for Disease Control, by 2020, motor vehicle crashes will be the third most serious threat to human health in the world. The International Center for Automotive Medicine at the University of Michigan is a group dedicated to lessening the impact of this global health crisis. Dr. Stuart Wang, professor of surgery, knows firsthand the terrible tragedy of motor vehicle crashes. As the director of the U of M's Burn Center and a highly skilled and experienced trauma surgeon, Dr. Wang has seen the suffering of thousands of crash survivors and their families.
The reason crash injury research became a major focus of my academic work was because of the wonderful environment and the many opportunities that I found when I arrived at the University of Michigan as a faculty member. I had a lot of training in sort of the more hard sciences, at least from a medical standpoint, molecular biology, immunology, and those kind of things. But when I got here, what I saw was a huge need for injury prevention.
When we started in 1996, Dr. Wang is very fond of saying, I didn't know anything. And he says frequently that he learned in the first 2 years so much about treating patients that came out of the research that we were doing with automobiles.
The first project in crash injury research that we did was actually called the Crash Injury Research Engineering Project. This was a project that was funded initially by General Motors and then subsequently taken over by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, as well as some other sponsors from the automotive industry.
So what we started as a siren center, shortly thereafter we became the Program for Injury Research and Education. And the International Center for Automotive Medicine grew out of that as a way to capture the information that Dr. Wang saw as being wasted.
Our goal is to cover the full spectrum of things that relate to crash safety, from the initial crash on the road and first responders, to the hospital and the medical personnel that take care of the occupants who are injured, to research where we derive data from both of those areas to try and figure out what really is going on, taking that information to industry engineers so that they can improve vehicle design, and then move into public policy and make sure that the roles of safety as designated by government are covered and improved, and then back out onto the roads where vehicles are safer for everyone. Our goal is to save lives and to work with everyone who has that same mission.
As you can see from these images, the occupant was rather heavy and unbelted.
So the EMS training modules in Crash EDU are designed to teach first responders from police, firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, how to read a crash, how to take a look at a crash even before they arrive at the patient's side, to figure out what possible injuries a patient may have, and then once at the patient's side, be able to anticipate hidden injuries that the patient might not be revealing yet based on their presentation.
Research shows that over 90% of children are improperly restrained in vehicles, due mostly to parental ignorance. It also shows that safety seats, when properly used, decrease the risk of fatal injury in infants by 71% and for toddlers by 54%. In an outreach effort to parents of young children and in partnership with AAA, Dr. Wang's team developed a website and animated video highlighting the need for booster seats for children who outgrow 5-point child safety seats. For the past 9 years, the center has offered a fellowship training program for automotive engineers. These ICAM fellows spend 1 day a week for a year with our team.
Safety engineers, when they come to us, are vehicle-centric. They're coming from automotive manufacturers and part suppliers, and we're from a medical center. So what we try and do is move them from vehicle-centric to occupant-centric.
I was very glad to be selected as a fellow in 2007, and I learned a lot as part of this experience. It was very educational, and it allowed me to see how the engineering efforts that we put into vehicles to make vehicles safe can help in the real world.
I considered myself an expert in vehicle safety and crashworthiness, but really until I came here, I did not realize how many disciplines are involved in the crash safety science.
And what we do is try to give them what we call a mini medical school.
We take them to the trauma bay so that they see the patients that are injured when they come in. We take them to the anatomy labs to do dissections so they understand anatomy. You can't understand injury without understanding the human body.
The things that I've learned here really puts perspective as to, we get to see real people, how they're injured, and with my background being all safety electronics, and deciding when airbags deploy and why they should deploy and which airbags, now you're able to put those two pieces together, seeing how they really work in the field, how people may or may not still be injured, and looking at that and sort of entwining those two things.
Our teaching has gotten more focused, has gotten better. At the same time, we've learned more and more from the engineers, which allows us to refine our research to provide them with more specific and more actionable data.
At ICAM, we bring together people who have diverse experience and expertise. Dr. Wang is a trauma surgeon and has been doing this kind of research for 15 years. Carla Kohada Ingalls has been with him for that period of time doing crash research, and it's an amazing group. We have Joel McWilliams who works with us. He's the preeminent crash investigator in the United States.
Well, there's three phases. There's the vehicle, and then there's the person, and there's the scene. The vehicle is in two phases. The exterior, which is we're trying to figure out how many times did it get hit, how and where, and what the energy involved in each impact was. The interior we associate with the person. Were they belted? What bags went off? What intrusions did they encounter during the crash? Were they extricated? And of course, what were their injuries? And then the scene, we tie it all together. That makes sense. Car hit this, spun in a certain direction, then hit something else, went through uneven terrain, and then maybe bottomed out, so it'd be the third event. Cars in general have changed a lot. They used to be quite big hulks from the 70s to what we see now. This is considered a big car nowadays, a full-size car anyway, and this was a compact in 1970, this size. They've gotten lighter, but they've also gotten better. Vehicles crush and absorb energy more than they used to. They used to be all on frames. Now they're more of a unibody construction, so the energy is dissipated differently and more efficiently. And seatbelt systems have changed, and of course then the airbags came about, and that's changed everything. In fact, they've evolved over the 15 years they've been around.
Our ICAM case reviews are populated by medical personnel, by automotive engineers from the OEMs, by parts suppliers who make seat belts and seats and all kinds of safety equipment, and by public policy folks. We have people who come in from NHTSA to sit in on them. We have police and fire that come in, and together we all work to try and determine what the mechanisms of injury are in each crash, and we really inform each other on a broader spectrum of what this means.
ICAM meetings and similar meetings to that are extremely valuable to people like me. We come from an engineering background. We know a lot about crash safety from the vehicle point of view, but when it comes to the actual biomechanics of injury, meetings like ICAM are very invaluable because we get to see the injury from different angles and its relationship to what might have caused it.
Because of the work that's been done at our center, I was asked to be one of the standing members of the National Expert Panel on Field Triage. And I was asked to coordinate the revision of Step 3. This is a very simple scheme that is used universally around the world by pre-hospital personnel.
The field triage scheme is designed to create a template that emergency responders can use on every single crash patient to determine whether they need to go to a trauma center or if their injuries are less severe and can be handled at a local center.
When we began this, we were doing case reviews. We were studying crashes and doing case reviews. And as we started doing that, we realized that there was a ton of data that could be extracted from this and married with data that we have, medical data that we have on patients who were injured in automobile crashes.
So what we have now are CT scans of tens of thousands of patients that have been injured in motor vehicle crashes. So these are perfect three-dimensional representations of their body characteristics and the injuries that they sustained.
Our team has come together and has grown to include programmers who develop software that allow us to map the human structures and to map injuries in 3D space, so we can start to get a sense of how these things relate to one another and how they relate to the vehicle.
In the past, what happened as a result of there being very specific dummies and very specific tests that were developed is that safety became very focused on very specific conditions and very specific types of individuals, and therefore missed the tremendous, variability in the population and in real-world crashes.
Who you are when you get in an accident really dictates how well you do. And as we found that out, we started to study the different anatomical structures of a specific person to try and correlate those building blocks of who you are with how well you do, to see if we can figure out the things that are most important in a crash.
We now have the data that the automotive engineers and the computer scientists need in order to develop a virtual human body model that is capable of predicting real injuries.
What we're doing here is taking something good out of the horrific things that happen to people in car crashes.
I think one of the things that I really hate most is that I've actually gotten pretty good about telling families about tragic news, or about telling patients that they are going to be disabled for the rest of their life. I have a lot of practice doing it, and I really hate that about myself, and I really hate that I've become so good at being able to, to convey bad news. What I really hope most, personally, is that I don't have to do that. That I and the people that follow me don't have so many opportunities to give bad news to families and to patients.